Hello there, Big Benedict here. We're playing God of War Chains of Olympus on God difficulty, and this is my no upgrade run plus no damage guide and walkthrough. We're currently on installment the third, and we now have the Sun Shield. I may have said too many positive things about this relic earlier in the guide and made it sound like it's this extremely fun thing that you can do, but it essentially just allows you to parry. And since we're doing a no upgrade run, we can't counterattack with riposte, with ripostes. But this Sun Shield, if you use it, it will knock back an enemy a little bit, and it's very helpful to get the upper hand on an enemy, even though you can't follow up with any riposte directly from an input, from a key. But you can always just use your normal attacks to riposte with that damage if you want to. They're quite helpful on the Morpheus beasts. Quite helpful. And the reason for that is because you can incrementally knock them back and corner them so they can't get out of an area. So this installment's not too bad. I do need to correct something. Remember when we were going down that lift earlier in the previous video, and I told you that, this is potentially one of the worst checkpoints in the game. We were going down the lift, and I called a knight a fire knight. Wrong. I apologize. It's not called that. It's called a Hyperion guard, and they're the brother enemy of the Death Knight. The former is has this red fire to it. The Death Knight is a green sort of enemy with green plumes of smoke on it. And speaking of smoke and fog, here we are outside of the area again, and we're going to be coming back into this fight. Now this fight has 3 sets of 2 archers that spawn at given times depending on the Morpheus beast's damage. But the first thing you need to do is go up here to get the other archer off the screen and just bum rush one of them, and then get the other one, because the other one will drop his bow and you can grab him. And then from now, what you want to do is that light heavy attack, and Sun Shield perfect block his attacks, push him back, and the split-second nature of the finisher, because what I'm trying to do is, ideally, I'm trying to land the square triangle. That's the move that I want to do because it does the most damage, and it stuns him because the final 2 buttons have a property of a plume to stun, like that right there. But if you see either of his forepaws start to move and attack you, you don't want to do anything beyond square triangle. Just guard, okay? And then once you get the quick time event on him, there's going to be 2 more of these archers. This could be way worse. They could have Molotov staters over here, but they don't. Okay, so that's the second set of them. And now there's a final one. Also, you know the way that I mistakenly called that Hyperion guard a fire knight? It makes me want to restart the entire guide when that sort of thing happens. I really don't like making mistakes. But anyway, here is the second one of these, and the third set of these hoplite archers should be spawning over here. So the thing about the checkpoint, remember when we were downstairs I mentioned it's the worst checkpoint? Well, there's possibly a worse checkpoint than this one, because if you are up here and you die, or if you're trying to be a perfectionist like me and try not to take any damage, if you get hit, they start you down there by the save point, and you have to go all the way up the stairs, and it's a long, windy, twisty staircase, and then you've got to come up here and get frozen in place while Gaia does the narration. Oh, there's somebody down here. Okay. But there's even a worse one coming up too. And the thing of it is, it's not really preventing you from doing a lot of fights because one of the fights is optional. But you know me, I have to do everything. I have to see everything. But at least you can do and see things well in this game. You know, at least you can fucking jump. Okay, now we're gonna go down here. And I'm trying to think. We do have an armored Minotaur coming up. And what I'm trying to do on this walkthrough is I'm trying to teach you, well, what I'm endeavoring to do, let's just say that. I'm endeavoring to give you strategies that you might not have seen before so that you can implement them into, eventually, if you want to, higher level gameplay. And I know that might sound a little elitist, or if maybe it's not something that you want to do, but it's just an option for you. You know, you can play the way that you like to play. And yeah, this run kind of makes me frustrated because I have done Charon on Pain Plus. I've not gone through him and not taken damage ever, but I can beat the entire game without taking damage on Pain Plus. I can beat him on Pain Plus with taking damage, but I can't beat the final boss on Pain Plus. I can beat phase 1 of her, which I think should be her only phase, but her phase 2 and Charon's phase 4, they have this sort of gimmick where they're out of your reach, and the idea is to hit them with projectiles or parry projectiles back. In Charon's case, though, and also with certain situations in Persephone's fight, you can hit her with just a standing T attack. The T attack, if you've noticed, is different from the one that's in Ghost of Sparta. They changed the one. And I really don't like it. If you look at Ghost of Sparta, they have a different one. The one in this game, the regular T attack, is from God of War 1 and 2. I have no idea where they got the idea to change it in Ghost of Sparta, but I just don't like it. Now, it is a little faster just by pressing the button, because the reason I do light heavy is because the heavy comes out faster than if you just press the heavy. But in Ghost of Sparta, it comes out faster just by pressing T. Alright, we're headed down the stairs over here, and if memory serves, we are going to be fighting an armored Minotaur coming up over here. So we have that to look forward to, and the Morpheus beasts, the armored Minotaurs, and other heavies such as that are going to be standing in your way a lot of times. One of the hardest parts from my recollection is the point in the story near the end of the game before the final battle that you do, and also, you know, obviously before Persephone. But there's a fight where you're regaining your powers and you're dealing with these really quick hoplites, and it's incredibly difficult. I remember a couple years ago trying to do it, and I finally did do it, but I was so red in the face. I was so upset at how difficult it was. But anyway, now we're at the caves of Olympus, and we're going to be jumping over here to do some scaling before we pick up the trident. Right over here to the right. I honestly don't mind the way these games look. I mean, they've got some pretty basic textures, but they're very detailed, and I love the ornate look of everything. And visually, it doesn't take much to impress me, but gameplay, that is something where I'm very picky, and I hate being picky, honestly. But that's just who I am. So we're coming down over here now. We're going to pull this lever underwater, And let me see, the fight coming up is with an armored Minotaur. Now, if you didn't know, the roll in this game has really good iframes. The the most iframes you get, I'm pretty sure, and I don't know this from any data, but just from the feeling of it, when you roll forward as opposed to left, right, or back, I believe then you have the most iframes. So I'm going to use that to iframe my way through some of his, if I have to, some of his sword attacks, because this enemy has a huge sword, and incredibly you can roll through it with the iframes, but you have to be very precise with it because you don't get too many iframes. I'm also getting rid of my Xbox 360 because I found out that Ninja Gaiden 2 is on the Xbox One and you can play it at a better frame rate than it currently exists. And I couldn't imagine that it's not in a better state because the 360 version always crashes on me on a daily basis. So, and I haven't played that game for a few years, but I do remember always having crashing issues with it. Okay, right over here. The best thing to do on this enemy is you want to do heavy, light, heavy, and that will do a or you don't have to. Heavy, light, heavy does the plume, or you can do heavy and then light, 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 or as many lights as you need to before you have to roll. And all you need to do is just dodge right through his little chomp. And if you do this well enough, you're going to be on your way to learning this enemy really well, because there are some fights later in the game where there's a couple of them. I think the Temple of Persephone has several of them, and it's not very difficult to learn how to do, but that isn't to say you can be a wizard with just your first trying of it. It took me a little bit to get skilled at it, but you have to realize, you have to realize that some of his quick time events are broken. There's certain armored Minotaurs that the quick time event is just not the same as it normally is, the amount of time. And I think it's one of the ones coming up before you get the Gauntlet of Zeus, the Power Glove. So rolling through that attack is the way to do that one, because otherwise what you depend on is you depend on his audio telegraphs to tell you when he's charging at you from off camera, and he doesn't always do the telegraphs either, so it's pretty sad. Sometimes he might do it, but it gets buried under the other sound effects. So there are probably I think there's at least one Minotaur where I'm not going to do the quick time events because I know that it's broken. And it's not one of those cases of, well, I'm just not quick enough to do it. No, this is not the same speed that it normally gives you, and you hardly get any speed, and it's just broken beyond question. Okay, this fight over here is yours to choose if you want to do it or not. The Sun Shield allows you to do an air block, if you didn't know, and that's not something that you ordinarily can do as Kratos, but now since we have the ability to jump, we can also do air blocks, and you probably won't even see me do it. An example of when you might want to use it is when you're hitting the disembodied part of Charon at the end of that fight, and you're coming down and he's throwing a projectile at you. If you're in the air, you can do the air block, but I don't really trust it too much, or I don't trust in my abilities, one or the other. Okay. This part over here, for a run such as this, we're not going to be able to use the light of dawn, but the first projectile comes at you from straight ahead. So a second after you see it spawn, that fireball, just send it back with L1, and then you'll see the right one firing at you and then the left one. And if you stay on one or the other sides, then the archer on the opposite side can't get in a hit because he's off camera. And indeed, they all don't throw them at the same time, so technically you never should be overrun from them. But I do like to have 2 guys throwing them at me instead of 3 guys, well, not really at the same time, but having to keep an eye on three enemies. And there we go. The fire guards are coming up next, if I'm not mistaken. There's 2 sets of 2 over here, and you don't have to participate in this fight if you don't care to. All you need to do is just jump off the cliff over here into the water. You'll find yourself back at the lake that we were swimming in when we were about ready to get the trident for ourselves. But you've really got to be careful of these enemies because they will armor through your attacks, meaning that if you're trying to plume them or super plume them, they will sometimes go through your attack and you'll get hit. And of course we've got the ugliest roll in history to deal with on this run, but what can we possibly say about that? You gotta love that right there. I love that, absolutely love that. So let's see, this fight, the Harplings, we've got a couple of Temple Knights, and then the ones that throw projectiles, and then we've got one more Hyperion guard, and then we'll do the fight at the end. Now the fight at the end has probably one of the worst checkpoints in the game, because you have to scale down or rappel down a mountain, and then listen to a long set of dialogue before you get your control back of the character. But yeah, if you plume whore these enemies, they can't do a single thing. And I do feel like I'm taking a risk when I press the circle button on these enemies. The ones that we meet up in the next room after the Harplings, I'm not going to do the QuickTime buttons on them all, because it's very strange and it's sort of broken. And what I mean by broken is that you go to press circle and sometimes it presses the button for you, sometimes the button just falls away even though you press nothing, and other times it just works. So I really don't like those odds, and it's messed up. But I really like this game. It's a very proficient game made by another studio, and they made a better game than I would say that Ascension is. Ascension just has a lot of things that I think ruined that game, such as the sirens. But this game, if you practice, you can get through these fights and not take too much damage. And if you keep playing, you'll get pretty damn good. Now over here, sometimes this fight doesn't spawn for me, but do you remember the last time we fought these Harplings and I said that it's potentially a pointless enemy? Well, decide for yourself if you want to, because all you have to do is just grab horror here, and then you'll be done with it. But I really enjoy the fights on this game. They're meted out with moderation and good taste. In the next game, there's some bad combinations of enemies. You'll have harpies with gerons, carries wraiths with armored cyclopses, and just a small little shitty room. Welcome to Shit Town, by the way. And Maybe it's because Rue wasn't the director of the next game. I don't know if he was. I think he's the creative director. Maybe somebody else was above him. I'm not sure. But a whole bunch of these, and I say grab war. It's impossible not to get through this without getting hit. So 85 hits, and then plus 10 orbs. Okay, now we're coming up over here. What? Oh, this is the part that I said that those enemies are broken. So you have a choice of what you want to do over here. You can face the Hyperion guard first, and then take care of the 4 Temple Knights. These archers here. But if you want to try your hand at rolling up to them, you're gonna have to take your luck as it comes, because you're probably gonna get killed. Now, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to one side of the room and get all of the archers off of the screen while dealing with the Hyperion guard. This guy down here. Sometimes he will keep his distance from you, and sometimes he'll corner you. And there's really nothing that says what he's going to do. So, yeah, we do have the. I think I've also gone in. Have I gone into the air block? Because there was a session of commentary that I had to scrap because there was too much background noise on it. I am doing this series in summer, and it's best to do the videos at night, you know, when it's not as hot, even though we do have the air conditioner on. But I feel like commentary, I do better. I just function better at night. I'm more of a night person. Look at this dog shit. Okay, now that he's gone, if you go behind these supporting columns carefully and then do a single strike on these enemies, they will stop throwing, and then you can grab them. But let's see this. No, I chose not to do it right there. They're grabbable. You grab them and you press a quick time event. I want to see what happens here, because this is just, it's badly made. Okay, we got the quick time event. I had to throw that back. We're not doing a Pain Plus run where we can't parry projectiles. Sometimes you have to parry. Okay, this puzzle over here, I thought this puzzle was a little bit more tricky than I gave it credit for, but it's actually very easy. There's 4 capsules around the room, and they all contain one statue that is pointed in a certain direction. So the sun shield acts as a key too, as you have seen so far, to activate things. So go ahead and activate that, and then you can open that one with the main laser, and then there's also another one that I believe you can activate with the main laser. But I said to myself, should I speed this up? You know, because on a no upgrade run, it's probably not vital that people have this in real time, but I really don't. I don't mind. I really don't mind. So this statue is aiming her shield to the left. Now that means that you're going to have to use her on a pressure switch to bounce the light off of that one, and then open the capsule at bottom left over here, right over here. So I think I'll not narrate this, and you could just, you know, do as you see fit with it. But there is a video game coming out I think it's coming out in a couple of weeks. It's called Gears of War 5, but every time I look at the cover art and I see Kate and see what looks like to me a lesbian woman, I just can't help it but not call that game Gears of War 5. And my main concern about Queers 5 is that when I play it, it's going to make me sick to my stomach. And I really don't want that to happen, because if I pay money for something, and the interesting thing is, it's on Steam now. First time ever. You've got to give it to the coalition for listening to people, and throwing it up on Steam rather than keeping it on the Microsoft Store like they could have. All right, let's move this one out. Now the ones on the bottom, those ones are the place where you need to put these ones that are pointing up. And I know direction is kind of relative at any given moment in a room like this when we're moving things, but it's not that bad, actually. Did you see that little black screen right there? You know what that is? It's the splitter, the HDMI splitter, disconnecting. This game also does not support the use of the PS4 controller either, so I have to use the PS3 controller, which is not a big deal. I'd rather use the PS4 controller, but I think that if you get used to it, the PS3 controller, while pretty small, is it's not that uncomfortable. Now, if we can just get our hands on this here, we can move on out of here. But I'm just kind of curious who's gonna start game rushing on Gears of War 5, because the animals like DSP and the Rad Brad are gonna be on top of that, because new releases are big business on YouTube. DSP, the guy is. When you have to realize this, folks, that he's an animal. He's not a human being. He has the face and the greediness of a glutton and a pig. Bitch is pure pig, is what he is. He is an ugly animal, specifically a fucking pig bitch. And we are going to see game rushing at a familiar level, probably. People rushing. I've got to think to myself that Gears of War 5, especially if I'm going in calling it a pejorative name, I really don't care about game rushing that. I don't understand the mentality of game rushing, playthrough rushing, and guide shitting, walkthrough shitting. Because people, like I say, it's big business, and these jobless gamers out there who depend on their mother and father for money and food and shelter. I'd like to just see one of these game rushers just get an ass whooping, just get his fucking ass whooped. Have his dad just come over into his room, kick the door down, pull his pants down, and just fucking kick his ass. Spank his ass till it's orange. Show these fucks, some respect. Because haste truly does make waste, and I'd rather just wait, play the game for a longer period of time, and then make a superior product than I could before. I'm not saying it's superior to other people's. I'm just saying that I can make it better if I wait, and I fall back. And that's exactly what I did with Devil May Cry 5. I think that game came out in March, and it's now almost September. I stuck with that game for about 3 or 4 months before deciding that I can't do it. What is being asked of me, I can't do it, and I don't want to do it. It's making me sick, and I hate it, and I'm going to just delete it. Abort it, for the 5th time, because I did have videos on my channel for Devil May Cry 5. I think I got to mission 5 the second V mission, and it's abysmal. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. And the main thing is, for me personally, is it's not that it's a bad game or anything. It's not that at all. It's just that the S rank, just thinking about the whole scoring system and the incompetent people that made it, it just really makes me not so much mad, but not even frustrated, but just really sick to my stomach. There's basically one thing left to do now. After you slide down here, you procure your shitty checkpoint, and then you choose to partake in this fight if you choose to, and then move on, and then you will do the final fight of the third installment. Damn, already the third installment. Things are going pretty well, going quickly anyway. So you see what's going on here. You're in a fairly disadvantageous position, although if you stand at the base of the wall over here, these enemies will not follow you. So you can plume whore here, you can super plume whore, you can move to the actual walkway at the top of the screen, and then these enemies are on rubber band AI at this location and at the top of the screen. If you go all the way up and then go left, they can only go so far, but you can grab whore down here, so that you have all manner of things to do down here. And these enemies are just fast and vicious. I think that's their charm, or what have you, their claim to fame. But as you see, we have a couple of archers top of the screen there. There usually are 4 of them, but if you engage them in this manner, there's only 2. I am not trying to not spawn the other 2. I really don't. I really don't care enough about spawning everybody. But you've really got to be careful as you move your way up here and just block constantly. You have the right of way though when you're grab whoring. They have to yield to you. The other ones are on the other archers. They're to the left, but got them not to spawn. This fight's difficult up here. It's a small area. You've got a lot of enemies, and the first one is a standard hoplite. And then a few seconds after he spawns, you'll have a Banshee. So you'll want to capitalize on this one. Launch it, hit it in the air, throw it, deal as much damage as you can. And then what you want to do now is just circulate around the small area. See how small it is? But when you grab these guys, you cancel out the attacks of the Banshees. And what you want to do now is carefully go up to archer by archer, going left to right or right to left, depending on where you're at, and just grab them. There's a set amount of them. Just keep going up to them. And the reason I say careful is because you don't want your grab to ricochet off one of an ungrabbable enemy, because that will likely result in you getting hit. So my usual stance in front of this enemy is a guarding stance, just in case it does its whiptail attack, because that can be blocked, and you can go into a roll from a block very easily on a whim here, because these guys, if they are true to form, they will prioritize their scream rather than that whiptail attack, but you'll want to block against the latter just in case. So have we ever fought 2 at the same time? I don't think we have. So you want to distance yourself from them as much as you can. Get to one corner while they're in the other corner, and the second you see them about to scream, roll up against them and launch yourself and them up into the air. There's actually 3 of them here. This is a hard fight to not take damage on. But now that we've got to this point, there's one left, and then after this, you'll have some standard soldiers. and then another Banshee, a third Banshee. And then one of the early fights in the next chapter is 2 Gorgons at the same time. We haven't even seen a Gorgon yet, but they get a backup on this next fight, and it's very difficult to not take damage on it. One of the harder challenges of this run. But now that we have made it this far, we're just going to grab more of these enemies. There should be 3 of them, and then, sorry about the fan, I'm trying to talk over it. It doesn't make that much noise usually, but and I know in my other house it was annoying, and I very much apologize for that. But these fucking fans make a lot of noise because they get dirt on them and they get weighed down. But here we go. Just finish these fucks off. I'm sorry, that ticking noise, it's gonna go away. Here we go, last one. Last one. Launch and grab. Grab and go. Go we shall into the 4th installment. I think there's 8. By the way, I've constructed it. And it's not that bad of an enemy. It's just that when there's other ones around, you know, and you're having to evade, and you're not sure if they're gonna do a physical strike or that scream, it's difficult. And, you know, visibility being pretty damn low in this game. Not only is it all purely fixed camera, but enemies can and will attack off screen for the most part. But anyway, that has been the 3rd installment. Man, it's almost 40 minutes. It was basically that puzzle that took so long. But now you've just got a few contraptions to manipulate over here, and then we will see each other in the 4th installment. So in the meantime, please take care, and thank you for watching.